Hey students, welcome to episode 21of the Film Student Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Lazzeroni. My guest this week is Danny Marshall from the new Orange Cohort. I hear some call it Orange 18, so whatever you want to call it, it's the new one. We talk about the educational path from engineering to comedy, his early exposure to Blazing Saddles, and the comedic impact of The Golden Girls. I'm serious about that. It's worth listening to. On with the show.
I graduated from college a year ago, May, and when the school was being announced, it was towards the end of my junior year, which I had decided to kind of pursue comedy at that point. I came into college as an engineer, as a mechanical engineer, and then switched over to the business school and was a marketing major.
I went to Virginia Tech, and they called engineering pre-business for exactly the same reason.
And then
so many.
That's exactly what it is. And B school, preschool. All of my friends make fun of me that I have a preschool education, which is great.
Hey, it's an education. That's what matters.
It is, and it was great, and I loved it. But I wanted to pursue this while I could, while I'm young.
Yeah.
And the school opened up my junior year. Harold Ramis went to my school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went to WashU in St. Louis.
Okay.
And I had always known that he went, and I had been a big Ghostbusters fan, all of it. And I just like the idea of, another nerdy Jewish kid made it in comedy, which there's a lot of us, but still.
Yeah, that's such an oddball story that no one's ever heard before.
I know, exactly. But it was nice. I was like, I want to follow that. So I applied. I just said I talked to my parents, and they said, yeah, go for it. I applied. My finals had ended. While my finals were going on, I was doing all the application stuff. They ended 5 days later. I applied. Graduated. I had 2 whole days of not knowing what was going on. I got pink eye on the drive home to New York from St. Louis. I was a mess. And I have to go drop something off at my mom's office while I'm home, and I get the call from Julie, hey, you're in, and I'm outside, and my mom's coworker comes outside and says, you can come inside. You don't need to be on the phone in the heat. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm really busy right now. This is a big moment for me. Please go inside.
Please go away.
No, it was great. And yeah, I found out, had the summer to hang, and moved out here and started in September.
So you were down in St. Louis before this? Where'd you go to school? You said sorry.
WashU, Washington University in St. Louis.
In St. Louis,
yeah. And so full name because the name came from it was established in 1853 on Washington's birthday, and that's it. It's not in D.C. It's not in Washington State, and it's a thing that every student and alumnus of this university has to go through with everyone.
Well, then there's also Mary Washington, and there's other variations.
Exactly. There's all those Washington and Lee.
That stuff used to confuse the hell out of me when I was a kid. I always thought that the Washington Redskins were from the state of Washington because I for when I was really little, I had no clue.
Right, of course.
I knew the states. I didn't think about D.C. Could be called Washington and just leave it at that.
Exactly. So
just to confuse me.
Yeah, we're all dumb as kids.
So what'd you use for your submission piece? What did your submission actually look like for it?
I had written a TV pilot. I've had this idea for a TV pilot for about 2 years.
Okay.
And at school, I became very close with my college friends in the improv community, and a bunch of us started a sketch group together.
Oh, cool.
And I lived with a bunch of guys who I'm close with, and blah blah blah. Another guy, we became friends beginning my junior year, who's now my current roommate, Gabe, and we were teaching a pre-orientation sketch program, and we just immediately hit it off. We just never really interacted before then, and we started to write stuff together. And I came to him with this pilot idea, and we wrote a draft of it, and then I was rewriting it a little bit. So my work sample is the first 5 pages of the very first draft of that show.
Okay,
and then
the cold open, effectively.
Yeah, well. Yeah, cold open. Yeah, exactly. It's the cold. It was what at that point I thought was a cold open, but cold open can't be 5 pages. I learned quickly here.
I I feel like there's at least one series that doesn't play the
Kimmy Schmidt
themes.
this season has pulled off like a 3-minute cold open because they've hit the jokes so hard.
Well, and technically for their pilot, because the song is about what happens, I think the cold open for that one's probably longer than 5 minutes because it winds up recounting everything that happened in the time leading up to that. But yeah, I feel like there's other shows that have done that too. That they just had to establish the world far enough, and so sometimes they didn't have the entry theme until like close to the end of the show.
Yeah, it's so interesting thinking back to like versions of things of even like reading first versions of if you grab a script to any early version draft of a pilot like Broad City Pilot, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, take the Friends, like they were different name just. And structurally so weird. It's so different because you're like, oh my God, that's how it could have started. Yeah. And we're here, like, take Friends, and it's like, we're here 238 episodes later, and it all came from that one episode. It could have been very different. So
yeah.
It's interesting.
You're setting the pace for something that needs to last for much longer than that in some cases. Hopefully last much longer than that. So what's the pilot? Are you willing to share?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it's about. It's called Boca Waters. It's about 4 recent graduates moving and living in a retirement community in Boca Raton, Florida, which is completely inspired and lifted from my experience visiting my grandparents in Boca Raton. I went every year for a week and started going in college as like just on my own with my grandparents, and it's just there's just so much. It's really about the characters really old souls, and they're trying to find their way in the world of like that post-college limbo, and realizing this retirement community is just like college, except there's no class, and there's more sex.
There's more sex.
So it's that kind of thing. So it's really the mixture of the generations, and also the other group of characters are all of the employees there, which are a lot of South African, English, Southeast Asian, young people the same age, but just from a different background. So it's really the mix of age and geographical kind of differences.
And so you basically get to write like Golden Girls for the modern generation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my pitch is kind of like it used to be like Golden Girls meets It's Always Sunny. But it's kind of morphing into a little bit also of like Broad City meets Grace and Frankie, which are very similar shows about like a great friendship between two strong characters.
I need to watch Grace and Frankie because I haven't seen any episodes of it, but I keep hearing more and more about it.
Yeah,
so
I like it a lot. It has a weak season, as every show on Netflix. For some reason, the second or third season is always really bad, but every other season has been really good.
Makes me wonder if Netflix, because one of the things they tell us when you get to the school is, I don't know if you had Kat for term 1.
Yeah, of course.
She talks about how, have your pilot ready, but be prepared to be able to pitch that as a feature, or be prepared if they like the pilot, what does the season arc look like? All right. How do you, once you get out of season 1, what does season 2 look like? And it makes me wonder if Netflix was not that versed in asking those questions. If they were just very like, well, let's just see if we can get for one season.
Right. They took any of those. Yeah, exactly. They take House of Cards and they have 2 seasons planned. Oh, it's going to be great. And then the 3rd season comes and they trust the guy. Just do it. Do the same thing.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So what were your influences coming up? What kind of stuff informs your specific comedic style? You mentioned you do improv and stuff like that, but
yeah. I'm a performer, writer performer. So I grew up as like a theater kid in high school, and then did a lot of improv and sketch comedy, and so I love, and I took classes at UCB for 3 years during my summers in college, and then finished up right before the program started and moved out here. So there's a lot of sketch influence. I just, since middle school, I would stay up and watch SNL. So I just like the dream, like I have that SNL dream as everyone does.
Yeah.
So I love that stuff. But like growing up, Saturday mornings, like my dad and I always were early risers, and the Three Stooges were on. So it's like that kind of humor. And like first big movies that my dad showed me Blazing Saddles way too young, but like no one regrets it. I don't think my mom even regrets it because she's happy. But but I mean the parts of it that I saw the fart scene very early on, I guess, with them eating the beans. But
the stuff that makes the most sense for a kid to enjoy.
It was so it's a lot of like Mel Brooks. That kind of stuff. My grandpa loved that. Both my grandfathers were big influences on my sense of humor too. One of them loved the Marx Brothers, and I watched those growing up. So I watched a lot of really old stuff, and then growing up, I started to really like the Will Ferrell, Adam McKay stuff, and then I just watch a lot of TV. I'm way more of a TV guy than a film guy. So sketch shows, old ones, new ones. I started watching Monty Python Flying Circus, Portlandia, any of these kinds of influences. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
but it's
I feel like
it's a much older influence, I guess.
Yeah, and I feel like that's more common nowadays. Is that people's interest does. You do have kind of disparity just because you have the ability to access anything.
Exactly.
You don't have to You don't have to go sit in a stand-up club to watch stand-up comedy because there's whole networks that are dedicated to it now. We grew up in the age of like Premium Blend and stuff like that you can go watch on Comedy Central and see a bunch of stand-ups all in a row if you really want to.
I still go back to some of those. I bought the half-hour stand-up specials on Comedy Central on iTunes, and I still have like 4 of them, and I'm embarrassed. Like they're the people that I bought are Daniel Tosh, Frank Caliendo.
That one's not so bad.
Jeff Dunham, and Harland Williams.
Harland Williams, I actually really like.
He's really funny.
I really like
Rocket Man. Have you seen Rocket Man?
I feel like I have.
It's a bad movie. It is a hilarious movie.
Well, have you seen Employee of the Month?
Parts of it.
Yeah, the Dane Cook one.
Yeah. I don't try to watch Dane Cook.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Okay.
That honestly, he had 2 big movies. It was that and
what was the one where the horse died?
One where the horse died.
Harlan Williams was one where they're all smoking weed.
Yeah, that's Employee of the Month.
Oh, that's Employee of the Month.
With him and Andy Dick.
Yeah,
and then the other one was the one with Jessica Alba, where Good Luck Chuck.
Okay.
Where he whatever girl he dates,
right.
or hooks up with, winds up falling in love with the next man that she meets, and so he meets Jessica Alba and falls head over heels and doesn't want to have sex with her because it will, it'll send her off after somebody else, and so
it's a very 2000s movie. It's a very
it is
it's a very mid 2000s
it's
movie.
very heavily misogynistic.
Yeah, I feel like I was talking to someone, and I feel like everyone was kind of incredibly misogynistic. All the movies. I mean, everyone was always misogynistic, and we're becoming more aware of it now. But specifically, the ones we grew up with, watching some of these. I mean, we watch Team America in class. Obviously, that's going to be terrible for everyone. And attack everyone. But there's some of these mid 2000s movies, Super Troopers, any of these that are just like
But I feel like there is a certain point where you hit the it's almost the Don Rickles inflection point.
Yeah,
where somebody can be so aware of the misogyny that they actually wind up making fun of it in what they're producing.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like that's where like South Park kind of is.
No. I think they're there. They're just so libertarian. They're so They know
realize
everything that's going on, and that's fine with that. It's rewatching. At the time, we had no idea.
Yeah,
we were kind of in it. We were dumb, but we're always dumb yesterday. We're always dumber yesterday than we are tomorrow.
It's the quote for the episode.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
fine.
We're always dumber yesterday than we are tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not that we get smarter for tomorrow.
No.
Dumber yesterday.
No. Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's like exponential growth or anything, but
in fact, we're just gradually reaching a plateau point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where you'll just exist and eat and sleep, and that's all you really get done.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you want to do with this now? You're in term 3, getting close to the finish line.
Yeah,
I was just looking at the calendar the other day. It's mid-August that we wrap up classes.
Yeah. August is like 17th is the last day of class, something like that.
What's next? What do you want to do after this?
I don't know. the school did a great job of squashing expectations early because they learned in a good way. They should have. Yeah. They should have. But I think a lot of us came in thinking we were getting writers' jobs out of this school, and it's nice to be honest, but it also sucks. Like, oh, that's not how this industry works. It's not how anything works. And it was really, I heard it was some of the original few cohorts really had these impressions as well, which is comforting to hear for us, but they kind of learned it the harder way, more of like, okay, we're done, now what? And then I'm planning on staying here for probably another year or so. A lot of my friends are coming to Chicago. Some have just graduated and some are moving. I have 3 friends in the new cohort, so
nice.
or potentially they got in. I'm not sure if they're going yet. And so I want to stay here, work part-time, and just build a portfolio, write more, do some more sketches or a web series of some sort. I haven't really done improv in a class or in a show setting in a year, just with this program. So do that. But where I want to go, I want to write. I ultimately would love to be a showrunner.
Which means you got to sell the pilot to be able to get that.
Exactly.
Nobody gives you a showrunner job.
No, of course not. But I would love to go up either the late night route and write for any of the people who are going to be hosting shows by the time I can get hired. But my heart's really in New York. I love New York. And I would move to LA in a few years, maybe a year. I still think I need time either here or New York. And I'd love to write for a sitcom or something and make my way that way. What Aziz did early on, or Mindy Kaling, or even take like Joe Mand, these guys who were writers and then started having guest appearances on the shows they were writing, really small, like townspeople roles. I love the Parks and Rec people are very well rounded. That kind
That's
of thing.
where like Donald Glover came out of.
Yeah, exactly. With 30
Rock.
Yeah. So
and was a writer, bit performer, and then stepped up to Community, and then from that to Atlanta, and
everywhere.
And the sky's the limit.
Yeah. So I would love to write for a show and kind of start to get my performing chops up there. I see myself more as a writer first now, and I have in the last year and a half or two. But yeah.
Would you see yourself trying to follow the Second City path and try and do it like within the theater, or is it trying to just stick to film and TV?
I don't know. I love theater. I love live performance. I like to write plays and do stuff, and also do I love the main stage shows and stuff like that. I think the fact that I've invested my money and this whole year in the film stuff, I think I'm going to stick it out with this stuff. If I didn't do the program and I did classes at IO and Second City and things, I would probably go for that performer writer to going from a stage. But I think I'm going to start with TV and film.
Try and produce stuff that end.
Yeah.
What have you gotten most out of the program so far?
It's all teamwork. You can't do anything on your own. You just gotta. It's so okay and encouraged to ask for help, because everyone wants to help, because they're gonna make your stuff better, and you're gonna hopefully make their stuff better. But just don't be a dick, and work with people. It's just like really. It's just that's how the world works. That's how the industry works. Yeah. But it's nice that I really love working with people and in teams. So that I learned a ton, obviously. And then writing stuff. It was a lot of the structure that I started to have, but I wasn't sure of, just getting things tighter. I tend to overwrite dialogue, and I tend to hit jokes so often that because of how my personality works, I learned that my characters point out to everyone that they made a joke and then laugh at the joke that was being made and then make a joke about them laughing at that joke. And it's
a very meta exhaustion style comedy.
And Terrence, the first time I met him was in one of our end of session reviews, and he's just like, "You have a whole page here where they're laughing at at themselves. They can laugh, but they don't need to keep talking about it."
Was that in your pilot?
Yeah, that was in the third draft of it. So, yeah, that was, and it was really funny stuff. I had some good references to. Of their two characters are in the locker room changing, and it's at that point in the story, it was the girls and the guys are in the respective locker rooms, and they're seeing the old naked bodies, and the girls are very like they love like free the nipple, that kind of stuff, and the guys are like, oh my god, I've never seen balls hang that low. And it was that type of thing where I made some Who Shot JR reference, some Dallas reference that is so way beyond me that I was really proud of, that like that only got laughs from the teachers, which was like the point. But then he's just like, you're going a little too far, and I was like, oh.
You're trying to write for two audiences, because that's tough.
I am, and I'm learning that too with my short film. I'm writing it for myself and my friends, and I have to try and write it for a more general audience.
You almost need to find somebody who's an old TV writer from that era to help you like punch up the script and add some stuff in there that would really hit for it.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you need to track down like somebody that worked in like a Norman Lear writer's room.
Yeah,
like,
my writer's room's just all in the family's writer's room, but it's a bunch of wheelchairs and like four mid-20 somethings.
Going back to the Golden Girls theme, like Golden Girls, their writer's room is insane. There's a list of like the shows that kind of not spun off, but were generated by those.
It's so
people,
it's so interesting seeing that web and seeing which writer rooms were the same.
Yeah, and how many like that goes down the path of it's not what you know, but who you know. Exactly.
And it's also it's like the Norman Lear shows, and then it spins off, and you get think about writers' rooms. I'm pretty sure the Mr. Show writers' room is most of the SpongeBob writers' room.
Yeah.
Which is
such
amazing.
Which
is amazing. But I'm like almost certain. I know. I mean, Tom Kenny obviously is in there, and Dino has done all the kind of stuff with Harmon and everyone.
I also love that. So for Norm's class, he's having us actually put together pitches to go to Dino for animated series.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he friends with Dino?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Real close friends, apparently.
Oh, wow.
So we have due later this week on Friday. We have due pitches with some sort of an image to go along with it, and a just Jim Fisher style pitch for Dino Stamatopoulos.
That's great. I wish we never had Norm. So.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't. Our scheduling, unsurprisingly, got messed up with the school, but we never had Norm. That sounds fun.
Yeah. So I have no idea what to expect, because I've talked to other people about it. Like, we never did anything like that, so that sounds cool. But have no clue if it's going to get any feedback or anything like that. Like, it could just be throwing it down.
He could silently just nod and with his starburns and walk out.
Yeah, just toss it down a well. Never see it again. I actually I paid a guy to draw the artwork for me.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
Mine's a anime-ish style cartoon show about a chemical facility where this mad scientist is working, and he's working with a super volatile chemical, winds up blowing up the test facility, and so all the test animals and all the staff, all the night like janitorial staff and custodial staff wind up getting mutated. And great. So it's the show is the custodial staff having to take on all these mutated animals and
they're
creatures.
Mutated as well, right?
Yeah, and they've merged with like their tools. So there's like a guy that has like floor buffers for hands and feet. There's another one whose mop fused to his spine, and so he can flip upside down and fly across the floor.
Oh, great! Oh, that's amazing.
And so it's completely random.
Is there a character who's the yellow bucket that squeezes the mop out?
No, but I'm thinking that guy has to have that as like an accessory.
Like sidekick or
yeah,
something.
Exactly. Yeah. I've got one guy that's got suction cups for hands and feet, like plunger suction, so he can climb on the ceiling.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Another one that's a woman that merged with a chemical closet, and so she spits fire, and so she carries around aerosol cans and turns them into flamethrowers.
That's so funny.
But I sent it to an artist, and I told him kind of just a rundown of those characters and like a couple of the animals that I had in mind. And he sent back with like a gorilla with like skinny guy legs and a rat that has an entire human head on the back of it. So great.
Oh God.
So hopefully I don't. It's insane enough, I think.
Yeah.
But the other cool thing I liked about it is that it was a chance to do a lot of minority lead characters for it because the entire custodial staff is going to be, foreign born
right
U.S. people that
Right.
that are all just randomly working together because
That's great.
that's where they ended up in like South Texas or whatever.
That's great. Animation's so fun. It's so, it's limitless. So
Yeah.
it's great. And I never took it seriously. No, I always took it seriously. I always enjoyed animation as a kid, obviously.
You took it seriously as like an entertainment form, not necessarily as like a viable thing that somebody could go do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially to create, because I was always like, oh, I can't draw. Why would I
Yeah.
do animation? Why would I create this? I'm not going to. But yeah, I don't know. We Gabe and I have been coming up with a bunch of new pilots, and an animated show is about everyone who's died at sea. It's their afterlife, so it's like this heaven Atlantis or hell Atlantis version hybrid.
Yeah.
And it's about, we don't know if it's yet really early stages, if it's a group of friends, a family, whatever. But Amelia Earhart's there, the JFK Jr.'s there. He's the mayor. Osama bin Laden's body is there, but like he's not always there because he was dumped there. The string quartet of the Titanic still plays, so it's that kind of thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I have a pitch that I have to not a pitch. I have a pilot that I have to finish tonight to submit for tomorrow. But that's Benjamin Franklin winds up being one of the main characters.
Great.
I pitched it as kind of like It's Always Sunny crossed with Quantum Leap. Where it's time bar. It's a bar that hurtles through time.
Oh, that's great.
And the first person they pick up is Benjamin Franklin, who winds up becoming just one of the members of the gang.
That's so fun. I love crazy history shows.
Yeah.
Of taking these real people and just messing with everyone.
Have you seen that Dan Harmon History Channel show that he did?
No, I didn't.
It's like, I can't remember the name of it, but I watched like 2 episodes of it, and I need to go track down the rest. It's just,
what is it?
it's him and Spencer Crittenden just,
so good.
just like messing with history by like bringing people back from the past and like having conversations with them. But the machine that they use for it is like falling apart. It's insane.
The story of Spencer Crittenden
Yeah.
is so great.
Yeah.
And just like, I love Harmon Quest.
Yeah.
I was one of the 8 CISO subscribers.
I was one of the other ones.
Hey.
I was one of the other 8.
That's great.
Somebody else. Who did I just have on? Somebody else that just on a recent episode told me they were a subscriber too. So
Yeah.
I think there's a cross.
Yeah,
there's
I was
Venn
interning at
diagram there.
NBC when I was in development, and one of the development execs, I talk comedy with her, and she was just like, "Oh, we're starting a new thing. It's gonna be great." And I was like, "Cool." And I got in the beta, and then I was like, "Oh yeah," and I did use it until I stopped using it.
Yeah.
and it was gone. But
Well, and I felt like
all the
I was
content
on it
is
for
elsewhere, though.
Yeah, well, I felt like I was on there for 2 or 3 things, and when those were not in production or
Exactly.
I didn't have time, I wasn't always back on there. That was
Yeah.
the tough thing. Like I
Yeah.
feel like if they would have had the volume of content that like a Netflix does that
Yeah.
is just strictly comedy based, I think it would have been a lot easier for me to spend more
agree.
time there, because I spend more time watching Netflix just because there is so much other stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's always something else that you can find on there.
Mm-hmm.
I think their algorithm is both annoying and brilliant at the same time, because it's able to track down
What exactly you want to watch?
Yeah, and it will start to recommend things before you realize that that's like your perfect niche,
Yeah.
that you're the perfect audience for it.
Yeah.
So what's if we were to give somebody some advice, seeing as you do have 3 friends that are potentially coming into the
Yeah.
program, if you were to give somebody advice about either this school or just film school in general, what would it be?
I would say show up.
Okay.
Go to class because it's cost money, and all the events they put them on for us, and
Yeah.
go to those. They're all helpful and useful.
Even ones that even if you don't recognize the name of the person, go for it.
They're
'Cause
usually better than the ones you recognize the name
Yeah.
for the person.
Two of the ones that I didn't know going into it recently have been awesome, and I just, out of fairness to them, won't say names, but
Yeah. No,
But-
exactly. The big names that we've had in the last year have all been not letdowns. It's amazing to see these people, but it's like I've read their book, and then we just recite what their history and
Right.
So it's nice to see people we don't know. And then I guess I would say like it's okay to not say give 100%, but it can be kind of spread out in where you find your forte is.
Mm-hmm. Comes in fits and spurts.
Exactly. If you know you're going to be a director, then take those classes seriously. Still put the work in the writing class or in improv. But you can. It's like very okay to lean one way or the other. And for me, more the writing stuff or the improv stuff. So I'd say put as much effort as you can in, but once you like realize, oh, I know what I want to do, or I think I like this, then dive in further, get to know the teachers better, go get coffee with them, have creative meetings with them, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, if people want to try and track you down on social media, follow you, see what you're up to, find out what happens with this pilot. What's the name of the pilot?
Boca Waters.
Was it
Boca
Waters?
Waters. Yeah.
So if they want to find out what's going on with Boca Waters, where can they go?
I'm on Facebook. I have a Twitter. I have an Instagram. I barely use them. I'm really bad at social media. I'm on LinkedIn.
Stuff.
My LinkedIn looks good.
Okay. Well, that's because that's probably Lynn's doing as much as anything.
Yeah, and business school. Yeah. I'm at _ Danny Marshall on Twitter and at dmarsh925 on Instagram. I don't post too much, but I'm gonna just start doing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Behind the scenes photos, if nothing else.
Yeah. I'm gonna start doing a lot of that. We're gonna have people on set for the final shoot.
Nice.
Doing all that.
What is your final shoot? What's your final project?
So it's 3 friends.
Since I'm editing it, I feel like you should go ahead and pitch it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, let's do that. A group of 3 friends spends the day together. They're out to dinner, and the restaurant won't split the check. So none of them want to lay down the money. So they decide to draw straws by literally drawing straws, and they end up spiraling into this big montage that leads into an art exhibit where they all have their interpretation of a straw up to decide who wins. And I've gotten a lot of feedback. It's dumb, but it's really about the friendship and about the evolution of taking the minutia of friendships and blowing things out of proportion, and how something really dumb can have such a long-lasting effect on a few people.
Taking who can pay the check and turning it into World War III.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you joining me for it.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks for having me.
That was Danny Marshall. Thank you to Danny and to the Harold Ramis Film School and Second City staff for their help. The song on this week's episode was Quicksand by the Great Heights Band off their new album Rad-Pop, available now on iTunes and Google Play. This show is recorded and edited by me, Tony Lazzeroni. If you want to hear more from me and my classmates, teachers, and a few special guests, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you have questions or comments, send us an email at filmstudentpod@gmail.com or find us on Twitter and Instagram at filmstudentpod. And be sure to check out some of my and my classmates' work at filmstudentpod.com. See you all next week. Class dismissed!